Hello.
Hello.
Yes. Good evening.
Good evening. Good evening. Good evening. Syed Ur Rahman.
Syed Rahman. The session is start or?
It's going to be starting in another 1.5 minutes.
Okay, I am sorry. Actually, I am in traveling, so I am confused. What time is it?
7 p.m. Indian Standard Time.
Okay.
It's 5:30 Dubai time.
Okay.
Okay, sure. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Bye. Sorry for interrupting.
Yes, Rani.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening. Good evening. Good evening.
Syed Ur Rahman. Welcome, Paul. Welcome, Krishnan. Welcome, Melody.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
It's good evening from India. Okay, so welcome everyone. So I think it's 87 participants. Should we? So may I have your permission to start this session, Paul?
Please do, and I'll share my screen when I start my slot.
Okay, sure. So let me. Participants, please mute yourself. So welcome everyone to this masterclass on railway operations management and planning. On behalf of Railway Academy and University of Birmingham, Dubai, I welcome you all to this masterclass. Today, we'll be covering various topics related to railway industry, and experts from University of Birmingham, Dubai campus and UK campus would be sharing the insights with all of you. So the recording, Sergey, the recording of this session will be available onto our YouTube channel, and we are also streaming it live on YouTube. So, and after the session, we will be emailing you the session recording. on your registered email IDs. So there is no need to record it. And going forward with the session, I would like to briefly introduce Railway Academy to all the participants, who many of you would be knowing about us and would be attending our masterclass sessions. But for those who are attending our sessions for the first time, just a brief introduction I would like to make on behalf of Railway Academy. So we are a railway and smart mobility focused training academy, and we have been working with students, professionals all around the world who are interested in building a career in railway industry. So majority of our training programs are online, and we have a virtual academy to help people who are interested in railway related careers. We offer 50 plus courses across various domains like signaling, railway electrification, RAMs, rail management, metro and high-speed rail technologies. And we also provide coaching and guidance for IRSC module exams. We have one of the largest course portfolios in Asia, covering RAMs, railway application engineering, railway signaling, electrical engineering, rolling stock, project management, telecom related to railways, modern rail systems, and so on. We have collaborations with eminent engineering institutions in India. We have a collaboration with Indian Institute of Technology, Delhi. We have a collaboration with IIT Madras, with whom we are doing programs on rail cybersecurity and artificial intelligence. We have collaborations with TUV Sud Asia, which is offering recognition to our certificate course program. We run a executive management program on rail management with IIM Kashipur. It's one of the leading institutions from India. And now we have collaborated with University of Birmingham to introduce or probably create awareness for their master's program in railway systems engineering in our network as well. So today's session is to today's session is about today's session is about railway operations management and planning, where University of Birmingham, Dubai has shown interest to expand the knowledge base of the attendees today with their experts from the university. So before we start the session, I'll just like to share one or two pointers to make this session good with experience. So if you have any questions during the session, I would request you to please type in your queries in the chat box. I'll be taking up your questions with the experts either during the session or at appropriate breaks, or if we miss any questions, we will take them after the presentations have been delivered by the experts. We may take a 5-minute break at 8 p.m. Presentations shall be followed by a Q&A sessions. So you could write your questions in the chat box and we will take them up, and I'll be asking on your behalf, or if in case I require any explanation from you, I will ask you to unmute and speak directly with the experts. This recording of this session will be available on our Railway Academy YouTube channel, and we will also be emailing you the session recording link on your registered email ID. So without taking any further time, I would like to invite Mr. Paul Plummer to start the sessions. Welcome, sir. Paul, you may share your screen. Yes.
Are you able to see that now?
Yes, yes.
Very good, thank you. Thank you for that introduction. I'm Professor Paul Plummer, and just a few bits of words about my background to start with, if the screen will move on. No. Oh, okay. Yes. I'm an economist by background. I worked as a consultant for many years in utilities and restructuring and financing infrastructure. And then I had various roles in the railway industry, at the regulator, Network Rail, Rail Delivery Group, and in the European Infrastructure Managers. So I had most of my career has been in the railway itself. In the last few years, I've had a portfolio of roles as a non-executive director and mainly as a professor in rail strategy at University of Birmingham, which I'm now the director of the centre, and also the lead for the UK Rail Research and Innovation Network, which is a collaboration of 20 British universities working in rail, and members of the railway supply chain in UK. So the Birmingham Centre for Rail Research and Education, for those of you who don't know about it, it's part of obviously University of Birmingham, one of the top 100 universities in the world. The Railway Centre itself has been around for about 50 years. So it's well established, about 140 people. I'd say we're the lead for Ukraine as well in the UK. And we do, unlike many places, rail research and education. So the two work closely together and reinforce each other. We tend to work more at the innovation end of the spectrum, but we do research all phases, from primary research into impact, and we work across the world as well. So it's really quite a privilege to be part of that. And recently we established obviously Dubai campus, and Melody will talk to you a bit more about that in a moment. I'm going to talk to you about some fundamentals as I see them about the railway. And now these may sound all supremely obvious, but actually, if people were to consistently act in line with these principles that I'm going to talk about, the railway would often work much better. So I think it is really worthwhile stepping back and thinking about some of these things. And the first point I'll really emphasize is the railway is run by people for people. I mean, again, extremely obvious, but engineers sometimes forget this. And talking, being part of a school of engineering in the university, and teaching on engineering courses, I think it's really important to bring that human dimension to it. So it is run by people, and taking account of how those people interact with each other and interact with technology and infrastructure is key on how we do things. But it's also really important to be clear about why we're doing things. We're running the railway in order to enable people to be connected, enable mobility of people and goods, and that fundamental is always worth really remembering. And the railways across the world in recent years, I think, have got much better at understanding that the customer needs to be at the heart of decision making, and the narrative about the role of customer in the railway is now much stronger than it used to be. But equally, I think it's a challenge for many railway people to really understand how the customer is relevant to their often quite technical and narrow role. And my core hypothesis here is that actually it's really important for everybody to understand that, for everybody to think about how what they do matters for customers, but also for the other outcomes of railways in terms of social mobility, in terms of the environmental sustainability, and enabling economic growth. So constantly asking why does it matter for customers and others is, I would argue, really critical, and not everybody always does it, even though it sounds obvious. The second sort of set of fundamentals, again, these are all supremely obvious in a sense, but if people acted consistent with them, the railway would work better. So the first point, indicated by the model of a railway on the top left there, is that it is a system. It is a system of track and train, the different elements of the infrastructure and the rolling stock, and it is absolutely a system. And people working on parts of the system, when they don't take account of the rest of the system, will often fail to deliver for customers, and that is a core source of failure and when we have problems in our railways. The second point there, shown by the V in the middle, the engineering V diagram, highlighting the whole life cycle of activities on an asset. from the system definition and through to the manufacture and build into realization, and really just emphasizing that the railway is generally made up of pretty long life assets. We do better for customers when we really think through in the early design how things are going to operate. We act consistently through the life cycle, optimizing the whole life of the assets to achieve the outcomes we're looking to deliver. Again, very obvious, but often gets neglected, particularly when people are under pressure to make short-term decisions rather than optimizing things for the long term. And the more we can shift to the left, the decision making, and make decisions about how we're going to operate earlier in the process and how we're going to build earlier in the process, generally the better things will be. And the third point is, again, obvious but important and often forgotten, that it is a network. It's and needs to be planned and operated as such. Failure to do so is what creates often problems. If I think of an example in the UK at the moment, High Speed 2 is the new high speed net line. Often in developing a major project like that, the mindset that emerges is one of a project that is separate from the railway, rather than actually recognizing that it has to be operated once it's built as part of an interconnected network, and really making sure that mindset is retained all the way through the process is extremely valuable and often forgotten. And there's an extension of this point in the sense that actually that diagram there just shows the railway network in the UK, but very few people go from their entire journey from a station to another station. Their journey involves onward connection from the station, and they have to get to the station. So thinking about the broader network across multimodal transport, even if that is active travel, walking and cycling, it is critical if we're going to really make sure we're delivering for customers. So thinking about that broader network is an extension of that point that, again, often is forgotten. The next point I'd make is that rail is a complex system. Often when people criticize the railways, they criticize it for being complex. Customers shouldn't see that complexity. It's our job in a way to make it simple for customers, but equally, we shouldn't pretend that it isn't complicated. And that complexity of the system, it isn't all entirely linear and predictable. You can't reduce all of it to its constituent parts. There are dynamic interrelationships, especially when human beings are involved, as well as purely technical infrastructure. So it is a complex system, and the different elements of that complexity around the complicatedness, the volatility, the fact that there is ambiguity and uncertainty is really important to recognize. And when things are challenging in a railway context, it's often people get overwhelmed by that complexity. And we need to make it simple for customers, but also simple for people who have to operate in part of that system. So you can either become overwhelmed by that complexity, or you can try and embrace it and recognize that volatility, uncertainty, complicatedness, and ambiguity, and turn it into something more positive. So in response to the inevitable volatility, have clarity about the vision, what our focus is, and the purpose or the ultimate goal. I started at the beginning talking about the railway is run ultimately for people, to enable mobility, enable sustainability, economic growth, and so on. Being clear about that vision. Recognizing that there is uncertainty as well. Again, one can get overwhelmed by that, or you can try to understand the key drivers and understand the underlying dynamics or fundamentals as I'm talking about them here today. And that will help us all to cope with it. Recognizing as well that it is complicated. People criticize the railway sometimes for being fragmented, and it is literally fragmented. Even if there is a single organization running the railway in a country, there are different parts of that organization that need to operate together as part of a system. Different silos, as they sometimes become, where people need to work together across those boundaries, whether they're legal boundaries or just team boundaries in a company. And how you deal with that is providing clarity, having an actionable plan, and sticking with it. rather than being overwhelmed by how complicated it all is. And then in terms of ambiguity, I used to say to my team when I was at Network Rail, because I was working in strategy and planning and public affairs, regulation and so on, if you don't like ambiguity, then probably need to go and work somewhere else. You actually need to embrace that and deal with it. And how you do so is by developing your agility and ability to deal with things being thrown at you in an agile way. So I'll talk a bit more about each of those. So in terms of the vision, we need to be clear about the inheritance we have as a railway, as part of a multimodal transport system, as part of a wider economy. Be clear about the importance of rail in that system, and be really clear about the role that it plays, the outcomes it can deliver in terms of economic growth, social mobility, and environmental sustainability, and so on. So having that vision, sharing that vision with people working on the railway, but also with the public, in a sense, because we need, as a railway, we generally need a mandate from the public in order to be able to be effective. We need a mandate from government of the day in order to be effective. So being clear about that with the public as well as with staff and customers, I'd say, is important. And then understanding, going back to some of the things I talked about at the beginning, understanding what it is that really matters for customers, I would argue, is critical for anybody working in the railway. If you don't understand what matters for the people, the end users, customers traveling on the railway, and freight shippers wanting to use the railway, you don't understand what they need or their challenges, then it's unlikely that you'll be playing your full part in delivering for them. So that's the first point. The second one is around scenarios, dealing with the uncertainty, recognizing that there are a range of different scenarios, and thinking about how one would deliver in those different scenarios is a strategic skill, and understanding what might happen going forward, understanding what might happen to demand in the light of the changes in travel patterns that we've seen, for example, as a result of and since COVID. In the UK, for example, with much greater leisure travel, less commuting, and less business travel. But still, people need to travel in order to do things, business and to commute, but they do so less often. They're relying on other technology as well. Understanding the finances, the next point, not just the finances in your part of the railway system, but understanding the finances of the system as a whole and how those fit together. In the UK and other countries now, we talk about the whole industry profit and loss account, a whole industry P&L, and understanding that in order to inform decisions, because if you don't understand that whole industry P&L, then you're unlikely to optimize what your part of the industry can do to enable the best outcomes. And then as engineers, more obviously, understanding the network and the assets, how they interact with each other, and how they degrade over time or as a result of use is critical. And these parts of understanding are what help us to deal with uncertainty. And clarity. In many countries, there's a constant debate about reform of the railways. It's almost inevitable that people like to talk about reforming the railways, how you can make it work better by organizing it in different ways. Ultimately, one fundamental truth is that, in my view, there's no perfect way of running the railway, and however you choose to do it, you still need to have relationships between individuals, human beings, in different parts of the system, whether they're in different companies or different teams, in order to make it work. So the clarity of how you organize is important, but you still need to recognize that people matter. Having clear strategies and plans is critical. Often when things are challenging, we tend to focus much more on the short term and not think so much about the long term. We don't necessarily communicate as well as we might about what our plans are, and we haven't always thought through the strategies for the long term. So doing that, thinking strategically, developing plans that are joined up, and then communicating those things is what gives clarity and helps people to deal with the inevitable complexity and complicatedness in the system. And then finally, agility. I already mentioned about thinking strategically, thinking about, well, actually, what is it we're trying to achieve? Constantly asking why and why not. thinking about the whole system, and systems thinking, which is powerful in an engineering context, but even more powerful, arguably, in an organizational context. Soft systems thinking about how human beings interact and how different people with different views of the world need to be brought along on a journey in order to achieve radical change. Collaboration. I've mentioned that there are ultimately different parts of any organization or any railway, but requiring collaboration across those parts, whether it's collaboration between infrastructure or engineering or operations or finance, or the supply chain and the client. Collaboration across those boundaries will always be important. And then finally, in terms of agility, recognizing the power of diverse groups of people bringing different perspectives, and making sure that we have all of those perspectives in conversation, and embracing that diversity inclusion, I would argue, is important. In the UK, for example, I think the railway workforce is not as diverse as it could be. It's not as diverse as the population we serve, and I think that sometimes holds us back in some respects, in terms of ethnicity or gender. And then just finally, I've talked quite a bit about sort of the broader context, thinking strategically, thinking about the outcomes and why. But at the end of the day, operationally basics are what makes the railway work. In handing over in a moment to Melody, I'll just sort of run through some of these real basic operational facts that we need to really be on top of. First is making sure that we put customers first in how we think about things, that everyone home safe every day, that we run trains on time. Actually, what most customers care about most of the time is the reliability of the system. They take safety for granted most of the time, and it's that reliability that matters. Finances are obviously key, and eliminating unnecessary waste is critical. That actually, and it gives us a mandate to grow and improve the railway, because if we're eliminating inefficiency, we're more likely to be able to afford improvements. We're more likely to be able to make the case to government when we're competing with health and education for funds to improve things. And then beyond those sort of day-to-day operational things, always thinking about, well, actually, how are we going to plan for tomorrow as well? So with those basics from an operational perspective, I'll hand over to Melody now, who's going to give you more detail on some of the railway operations and planning issues. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So, hello everyone. I'm very excited to giving you a talk today, and thank you for attending. I think I have the control now. Yes.
You'll need to tell me when to move the slides on.
Or I think it's better if I share it, because it would be a bit difficult to.
Okay.
Yeah, let me, can I share it myself, please?
Yes, you can.
Yeah.
Please share.
Yes, 1 second. Yeah, I think now we can see, yes. Full screen. Yeah, I think now I have the controller. Okay. So, my name is, as I said, Melody Sameni. I'm an associate professor of railway system engineering at University of Birmingham, Dubai campus. I'm also the program director for MSc Railway System Engineering and Integration that we have, which I'm going to give a short presentation about it at the end of today's event. I've had some responsibilities in railways. Some of the new ones are, I'm the co-chair of a special interest group for railway transport at World Conference on Transportation Research, and I'm also a member of Technical Committee of Global Rail Conference that is going to be held in early October in UAE. So the topics that I'm going to talk about, we as system engineers, we like to have a big picture of everything first. So I'm going to talk about the current status of railway, passenger, and freight transportation around the world. Then we'll talk about why railway operation is important and is complicated. I'll choose one of the topics which is very important for railway operation and its railway capacity. We'll talk more about it and the challenges involved. After that, I'll give some ideas regarding potential future trends for railway operation, and we will have a short case study of Dubai Metro, which has automated operation. As you can see in this graph, this is from International Union of Railways, and it's their latest statistics available on their website. You can see passenger kilometer by different continents. As you can see, the majority of passenger kilometers transported in the world is done in Asia Pacific and Middle East. There is no wonder about it because the population of this continent is very high and it's also a vast continent. So that's why the highest proportion of passenger kilometers belongs to this part of the world. And you can see top 10 railways regarding passenger traffic: China Rail, Indian Railway, and Japan Railway. Regarding freight and ton kilometer, then again, you see the distribution around the world, Asia Pacific and Middle East, about 40% of total ton kilometers of railways of the world, 27% to Russian Federation, some Europe and America, about 30%. And you can see the top 10 railways of the world in this regard: RZD, which is for Russia, China Rail, and Association of American Railroad are the top 3s in this regard. Length of lines. Not all the countries have the same density of railway network. We can see this about 24% of all world railways exist in America, 28% in Europe, 32% in Asia Pacific and Middle East. And then again, at right, you can see that how many kilometers of railway line exist. The top 3 ones are Association of American Railroad, China Rail, and RZD. And high-speed railway traffic, which is one of the high technologies that exist currently in the world. The majority of it is done by China Rail because they have an extensive high-speed railway network, and the population is high. So then it's after China Rail, it's followed by ADIF in Spain and Japan Railway. One of the measures that we can see how countries are active in the field of freight transportation is comparing their freight performance to GDP. And this analysis is again done by International Union of Railways. As you can see, North America is doing quite well in this regard. Some countries like Brazil, China, and Australia is doing good. We have some weak performance for some countries, whereas in passengers, Europe is doing very well. China, Japan, South Korea, and we can see more details and different countries in the map. And the last of these diagrams is about density of the network. As I mentioned earlier, some countries, if we compare to the area that they have, the density of railway network is high, whereas some countries, they don't have enough railway. So here we can compare in one map how these countries compare to each other. We have the highest density of railway network in Europe and some weakness in Africa and Southern America. and you can compare each country that you want with others by looking at the legend of the map. So I've put all these slides. I didn't want to say that I wanted to say that railway is doing great, but it's not good enough yet. Why? Because according to the statistics, again by International Union of Railways, overall passenger modal share in the world is decreasing. Freight modal share is also decreasing. And unfortunately, railway infrastructure investment is also decreasing, whereas especially when compared to road transportation. I'm emphasizing again that this is just the average of the world. In some countries, the trend might be upwards. In some countries, it might be downwards. For instance, in Middle East, currently there are lots of investments going on railways, but this is a world average. More specifically, if we want to talk about modal share in EU 27 countries, roughly 90% of all inland freight transport is done by railway. You can see some arrows on the map, which shows for each specific country is the trend upward or downward. As you can see, for a few countries it's upward, but for majority of the countries is a downward trend. Here you can see for other parts of the world, if the color is, more closer to red, it means there is higher modal share for railway. Red is over 60%, and so you can compare countries, and then again you find different arrows for this. In passenger, unfortunately, the situation is a bit worse. That is only 8% of all inland passenger transport is done by railway. Again, you can see this is EU 27, but more or less in different countries is not very far from this number. And you can see the trends again. Detailed statistics regarding this is available for free on the website of International Union of Railways, and I've put the references at the end. So if somebody is interested to see more details about it, they can refer to the website. And here you can see that nearly, apart from Europe, in many different countries, modal share for passenger railway is negligible and often less than 10%. So we all know that railway is one of the most sustainable modes of transportation, especially for the environment. As shown in this diagram, 24%, about a quarter of the all greenhouse gas emissions are due to transport, and the majority of it is for road transportation. So we need to have, we need to somehow do more with less. That is, we would have, as I mentioned earlier, we have less investment, but railway is important. We want sustainable modes of transportation. So all in all, we need more efficient railway operation, because with railway operation, without much investment, we can optimize, we can have a more efficient railway. So now, why railway operation is complicated? One of the first reasons is that railway is multidisciplinary. We have rolling stock, which is in the realm of mechanical engineering. We have infrastructure, which is more civil engineering. We have signaling, which is close to electrical engineering. We have very different discipline. So to have a good understanding of railway operation, all these disciplines should be able to work together. And one of the reasons that our MSc, which I'm going to talk about later, is successful is because it has a multidisciplinary approach to our railways, and you learn about all these different subsystems. So you would be successful as a railway engineer. Another problem for railway operation is that it's usually spread out across regions, whereas, for instance, in a power plant, operation planning is much easier because you are confined to one geographic location. So metros and railways are expanded throughout the countries and continents, which makes it difficult to operate and to maintain. Railways is very expensive to be built and to be maintained, rolling stock as well. So we need to make most efficient use of these assets that we have. As Paul mentioned earlier, railways affects daily lives of millions of people, especially in the passenger sector. So even small delays can have a great impact on people commuting to work to reach their destination. So we need to be very careful and have a reliable railway operation. Moreover, railway has one degree of movement, which sometimes is a good thing, which is we can automate it. You can. I've made a figure to show that the degree of freedom for different modes of transportation. In air transportation, we have 3 dimensions of movement, whereas in road and marine transportation, we have 2 degree of freedom for movement. This 1 degree of movement caused one problem for us, which we have something called domino effect in railway operation. That is, if one train is delayed, it will cause secondary delay to all the following trains, and then delay propagates all through the networks and make managing it really difficult. So up to this point, you've seen that railway operation is very important, but it's very complicated. Now, when shall we think of railway operation? This is I've took this diagram from High-Speed Railway Handbook that is again published by International Union of Railway. Just in parentheses, I mentioned that if you have not used as far as I know, and Sumit told me, most of the participants are themselves railway experts, so you probably know about International Union of Railways and their website, which is uic.org. Maybe if your company is a member of UIC, you have access to more of their files and documents and data, but a lot of their material is available for free. So make sure that I cannot emphasize enough. I myself found a lot of useful information on their website. So especially this handbook, which I mentioned, is very useful. It's about high-speed railway, but the phases that has been mentioned is the same for whatever railway projects that you have. The main stage that we need to think about railway operation planning is at design phase and stage 8 as specified by them. Although in previous stages we need to have an idea of a future operation of the railway line we are going to build, but this stage is the main phase that operation needs to be taken into account. And after construction phase that the railway is being built, then obviously we have the actual operation, which is very important, and it's about day-to-day work of railway. Here we can see the hierarchy of railway operations. It has different levels of strategic, tactical, and operational. At strategic level, mostly network planning is done, line planning is done, capacity planning, which is one of the major things, and we're going to talk in a few slides later. Then after this strategic planning, we need to make the timetable. There are different tools available for it, but it's a very complicated process. If you are into research, there are many papers published on different aspects of train timetabling, mathematically modeling it, doing it by simulation, and various aspects of scheduling and rescheduling of train timetables and delays. After a timetable is generated, we need to schedule rolling stock that we have. And after that, we need to do crew scheduling. And then again, all these are very complicated if we want to do practical modeling of a real world railway. And there are various methods available. And after that, in day-to-day operational railway, things does not go as planned as often as we want. So we need to make real-time adjustments and reschedulings for what we have already done. As I mentioned, there are many different aspects of railway operation, but I chose railway capacity for today's discussion as it is very strategic and also multidisciplinary. I've published a review on different analysis methods that exist about railway capacity, and here's the link. If you're interested, you can have a look later on. So I've chosen some parts of this paper for presenting to you. One thing I wanted to mention about difference of railway capacity and road capacity, because these are two modes of transportation that have problems of, if you consider transportation as nodes and links, railway and road are the most, are the two main modes of transportation that have congestions and capacity problems on their links. But road is doing much better than railways. Here I've made some comparison. For instance, highway capacity manual, the first edition of it was done in 1950, which is like decades ago. It was published by Transportation Research Board, and they frequently revise it, and the latest edition is for 2022. It's very detailed, over 1,200 pages. Whereas in a railway, the first edition of an internationally accepted capacity manual was published in 2004, and the latest edition is 2013, which is let's say 11 years ago, and it doesn't have much detail. It's just 56 pages. So although, as I said, that railway operation is important, we can see that there is, let's say, somehow we need to maybe use this term, that there's poverty of knowledge and material that helps railways to operate better. So in a way, it shows that there are lots of opportunities for people interested to work in these fields and to help railway companies operate better. So I just wanted to ask you to think for a while, what is railway capacity? Initially, I wanted to ask you, but maybe as the participants are many, maybe it would be difficult. But if I may just, can you write it probably in the chat box, what do you think railway capacity is? How do you think we can measure railway capacity? Or if somebody is interested, maybe we can unmute their microphone. Headway, fleet, tonnage.
Melody, motion, Surmeli is writing it's measured in terms of headway and fleet. Sachin has written tonnage. Dr. Venkatchari has written railway capacity, section capability. Andrew Wahaba has written the number of trains per day.
Good, thanks a lot. As you can see, we are railway experts and or at least interested in railways, and now we can see that there are different propositions for how to define railway capacity. I'll take one of them and challenge it a bit, which is the amount of trains per day.
A few more comments have also come, Melody. Density of population the train can handle. Salman has
Yes.
written, railway capacity is rolling stock equipment planning with respect to ridership. Sai Krishna has written capacity to serve number of passengers per day. Venkat has written, okay, amount of goods transported per day and number of passengers transported. Mohammed has
Wow,
written
thank you so
maximum.
much. Very quick.
I think this will go on. You can take up the approach.
Very good. I'll take a common theme among them and challenge it a bit, which is the number of train, maximum number of train on a network or a section of the line. So, what train? I mean, is it passenger train? Is it the freight train, or is it a combination? If it's a combination, how many freight train? How many passenger train? And what's the speed? Yeah, so if we want to define it, let's say 50 trains per day. So how can we identify whether it's a 50 passenger trains or 50 freight trains, or is it maximum speed, maximum operational speed? Yes, so I'm going to explain this in the next slide. Thank you very much for your contribution. Very attentive audience and with good knowledge of railway. So this is not just difficult for us to define. As I've put some definitions of railway capacity, we've been having various definitions for railway capacity. You've mentioned kindly some of them in terms of level of traffic that is passes through a line, supplying services as needed, whether it's passenger or freight, highest volume of trains per day, and different things that you mentioned. But the conclusion which International Union of Railways in 2004 mentioned was that we don't have such a thing as capacity. Actually, what UIC meant by this sentence was that it really depends on how you utilize the railway line. So it depends to the rolling stock that you have. It depends to the timetable that you have. It depends to the average speed that you have. So somehow we use this. They propose this diagram, which is it's a trade-off between the number of trains that you have, between the stability that you want to have, average speed of the train, and heterogeneity, which is important. Heterogeneity is somehow the difference between speeds of the train. So if you have, let's say, one track and you have freight trains on it and you have passenger trains on it, it will be really difficult and challenging compared to if you just have passenger trains with the same speed. So if there's difference between the speed of the trains, some slow trains or fast train, it would be challenging for capacity utilization. And capacity utilization is affected by different things as somehow I've captured some of them in this diagram. Rolling stock, modern rolling stock, faster trains, the more tracks that you have, advanced signaling systems can all positively affect capacity utilization, which is that you can use more capacity of the tracks that you have. Whereas, let's say, speed limits, disruption, especially heterogeneity of speeds that I explained earlier, would be affecting capacity utilization negatively. There are various methods to assess railway capacity. There are analytical methods, and I'll explain a bit about the method that International Union of Railways proposed. But there are also optimization methods that usually by mathematical modeling, you model the networks that you have with by having different variables, you solve that optimization model. There are some simulation tools and softwares that you can simulate and assess railway capacity. There are too many things to talk about, so I'm not going to details. As I mentioned, this is available in the paper which I previously shown to you, but they have each of them has some benefits and some shortcomings in terms of solution time, in terms of complexity of the models, in terms of the level it can assess capacity, which due to your needs, you can choose one of them and use. But the method that is suggested by International Union of Railways is in a leaflet which I mentioned. It's leaflet 406, which is very famous. Also, lots of papers has been published in this regard. It's 56 pages, as I mentioned, but the gist of it, let's say, is that when you have a timetable, you first choose the section that you want to analyze railway capacity. There are some details to it. I'm just giving you the overview of how it is done. But you choose usually the most crowded time of your day, which is usually in the morning, the peak hours. And then you compress the timetable and somehow identify the least time that is needed to run all those trains. And then you calculate the time, which is actual capacity consumption. And then you divide that occupancy time to divide it by the whole time frame that you had, and you come up with a percentage. So the higher this percentage, the more you're using your capacity. But obviously, there are some limits. You can never use 100% of your capacity. And these are the suggested limits that have been suggested. I'm conscious of time. The final slides. So what would be the potential possible futures, trends of railway operation? Obviously, AI these days, we are hearing it a lot, and I'm sure it would be very beneficial for railway operations. I think we would have more automated operation. I'm going to just briefly show you the Dubai Metro and how it is automated. Internet of Things would be really good, as I mentioned. Railways is geographically dispersed throughout a vast region, so Internet of Things can be very helpful. We would probably have more autonomous trains, and use of augmented reality and virtual reality can also help to enhance especially passenger experience. Oops. What happened? Okay. Yes. So the final thing is about case study of Dubai Metro. Currently, Dubai has 2 metro lines, one green line, one red line, which is also called Expo line, because it was going to Expo where Expo exhibition was held. Was it 2-3 years ago? The main features of, in terms of operation, it's fully automated driverless trains. I'm going to show you my last slide as a video. It uses CBTC technology. It has platform screen doors. Because of this automated operation, the punctuality level is high, more than 99.7% of trains are on time, and it has quite impressive number of passengers, which is 260 million passengers in 2023. And here's a video I took some days ago As you know, it's driverless, so you can see it in the very front of the train, and it's just like 30 seconds. You can have a sense of how it looks like. You can see all these platform screen doors that is driverless. Yes, to conclude, this is a very extensive topic, but to summarize, we cannot stress enough the importance of railway operations. For more efficient railways, we cannot build new lines that easily because they're very expensive. We cannot buy rolling stock that easily, especially railway capacity is important. And using of new technologies such as automation, such as AI, Internet of Things, and digitalization, which my colleague Krishnan would talk about in the next presentation, will definitely help railway operations. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Melody. Thank you.
Hello.
Yes, Krishna.
Hi. Yeah, so I'm just sharing my screen. Screen. I hope you all can see the screen now.
Yes.
Right. So I think Melody has sort of like Paul has put together the upper level of railway operations. I think Melody put together the sort of the thinking layer for this one, and I'm going to cover more of the sort of the physical layer at the bottom for railway operations, and to look at the impact that railways are having all across the world. Before I start, just to give you a quick introduction, I'm Krishnan Venkateshwaran. I started in information technology way back when. I worked in GE Transportation as a tester. And then I went to the UK to do the same master's that Melody is now running in Dubai. I was offered a PhD to do in the same subject, and then I went and worked at this prestigious lab called Transport Research Lab. This is the same company that introduced roundabouts and pelican crossings and all the zebra crossings that you see across the world. They're one of those pioneering companies that did that. I came back to the university to work as a technical officer, translating lab research for actual SMEs to use in their day-to-day sort of work. And now I have taken up the role of an assistant professor in railway systems at the university. So my work has generally been an interaction with both industry and academia. So I'm not purely academic. I'm not completely industry or a consulting person. So I like working on diverse subjects. So the subjects can range between anywhere from something as simple as signaling or something as complicated as hydrogen and hydrogen supply chain that everybody's talking about. I've worked in the past with companies like Indian Railways, with Network Rail, RSSB, which is the safety standards boards in the UK, Transport for London, HPCL, Railtel are all companies that I've worked with in the past. There are other companies here, but I just mentioned the most recent ones that I've been working with. To begin with train control, at the bottom of all operations is train control. So train control is sort of essential part of railway operations. The idea of train control is to separate trains from each other so that they don't sort of like clash into each other, and to detect where the trains are at this moment. and to effectively move traffic in a safe and reliable manner. So all the people who are attending will sort of like suddenly have images of signaling blocks, have images of track circuits or axle counters, and basically we have all the semaphores or the light signaling or the in-cab signaling methods to sort of like separate the trains and move them in an efficient manner. So this is what train control is all about. If you look at railway signaling history, it's been 200 years now, roughly, since the railway. So we are in the 200 year of railway introductions, of railways becoming a viable transport medium around the world. So the first lines in the UK were formed around this time, 200 years ago. And what happened was something called railway mania. So in about 1850, they sort of like realized that we should be doing more in terms of signaling control. So we should probably separate our trains out. So that's what we call early railways or train time separated control. Basically, people used to have whistles and stop trains at a particular point until they hear of the next train having cleared. Then we came to block-based railways. These are basically railways that run on sections with the if the next occupied section is cleared by the say, station manager or signal manager, then you're allowed to enter into that section. And then we come to fixed block railways, which is basically distance protected control, which is slightly more modern, or you also know this as automatic signaling, where stuff would have been where signals are vacated once the blocks are cleared. But for that, we need to standardize how we sort of like look at block. We then have moving block railways that started to come in around 1988, which is when people started to discuss about actually why do we have these physically fixed infrastructure blocks? We should start to look at speed protected control. And now we are looking at future integrated railways or accelerated protected control, or basically we are looking at virtual coupling, and we're looking at new approaches to railway signaling. So this is what was progressive speed signaling in what I would call the in Europe, as it says. So you can see all of it. The signals don't just give you an indication of to proceed, but it also tells you how fast or how slow to proceed in the next block. So this is one of the fundamentals of what will become European train control signaling in the future. So ETCS level 1 is basically the same old controls, but then you add balises which sort of tell you what the next aspect is going to be, so that you can keep repeating those aspects as much as you need to give the driver the confidence of approaching a signal at a particular speed, so that you don't lose capacity from that perspective. ETCS level 2, which is the more commercial one that is now being rolled out all across the world, uses something called virtual signals. So you basically virtualize your or digitalize your signals and then run them from a cab position, so that you're still running fixed blocks, but you're running them as virtual signals, so that the signals sort of move with you as the back of the train moves forward. ETC's level 3 is still being conceptualized. I think it's one of its first baseline specs has just come out, and it has now split into multiple different layers and levels. And but fundamentally, the idea is that you won't have any line side assets or line side signals that will constrain your capacity, and you can run on what is called as the minimum separation distance, and you're able to vary that separation distance by the speed of the stock that is moving ahead of you. So if it's a long freight train, then the separation distance will be different. Um, Railway digitalization itself. So if you think about it, at the core of it, you have signaling and control, which defines your how many trains you can run and what your operations will look like, and how the operational control of a particular railway will come through or fall together. Then we have traffic management on top, which basically responds to demand. So how many trains you want, how many people are you trying to move, how much tonnage are you trying to sort of like add on top. So this is the next level of the railway digitalization. So this is where you automatically set routes. You can automatically sort of like work together in setting last minute demand curves. You can change trains. You can change the actual sort of like station platforming information at this sort of layer. And that was largely done using analog techniques, or just done using paper and pen, and that's now completely being moved over into the virtual world and using analytics to basically work out conflicts. So if you have access to products like Traxis, or if you have access to OpenTrack or Riato and other sort of like these traffic management products, then you would be able to do a lot of this traffic management within them. But railways is generally actually a big part of it is basically asset management. Not only do you have to utilize the asset, but you also have to manage this asset. And a part of that asset management is that, like Melody said, railways are geographically dispersed. That is, they are spread across a large geography, which means you need to really walk the miles to manage them. So a part of the railway digitalization story has also been to improve the asset management characteristics of the railway, to improve the outcomes for the operator, and the improve the outcomes for the infrastructure manager. And all of that falls into revenue management, which is what sort of Paul was talking about at the very basics. Is that we need to realize that we are doing all the asset management, all the traffic management, all the signaling control from the idea that we generate revenue, but we generate revenue from the opportunities that are being placed by our customers. So it therefore calls for us to maintain quality for the customer. So the idea for the entire digitalization story is that you are actually changing something at the very bottom, that is in signaling and control, and then reflecting it up the chain. So you're digitalizing the chain. And this is the story of railway digitalization the world over. Parts of the world are still sort of like dealing with analog objects along this sort of chain pathway. And as time goes on, we are going to see more and more parts of this become digitalized, become more accessible, and so on. A good example of that is what is happening in the UK. At this moment, it's called the East Coast Digitalization Program. The East Coast Main Line is about 390 kilometers. Corridor was built during the 1840s to connect London to Edinburgh. And it was an ambitious program to convert the existing sort of traditional line side signals to ETCS. And it's being done at what I would say is the most optimized cost of the infrastructure. So digitalized signaling sort of relies on in-cab signaling. That is, all the rolling stock has to be converted to be able to take a screen in them that can give the driver the aspect information or the limit of movement authority information. It is to be able to accommodate the higher speeds, which is why we are not trying to push CBTC into that, because it will be easy to use CBTC. But CBTC has challenges in being employed on the main line. And most importantly, you provide a more reliable railway for the customer. And that is the end product of this, is that people don't want more trains. People want all the trains to arrive on time more regularly. And that's the challenge with digitalization, is that how do we make our railway more reliable? Traffic has grown over the years on this particular stretch of line, and it causes delays and reliability issues and so on. The program is not only replacing signaling, but also digitalization of assets. So you could basically look up the health of a point sitting in London, or in any cabin in any place, and look at a health of a point on a remote location in the countryside. You don't really need to understand that the asset, you need to walk the asset to understand it, which means that you're able to catch, or you're able to intervene much earlier in the sort of like the failure cycle in the asset management sort of like domain. And the aim of the program is to reduce the cost of asset maintenance. People often forget that why do we do this sort of digitalization program, is that you can reduce the number of assets, so you can improve the heterogeneity score on the axis that Melody showed you on, so that we don't need to maintain as many products on the line. We don't need to maintain that many sort of like stock spares. You don't need to have as many sort of like store objects. And this allows the organization which is Network Rail in this case, to continuously sort of like monitor the line side assets and under condition, and then make interventions to protect the reliability in time. So a lot of the thrust with this program is to show themselves and the world that they're able to improve the conditions of the railway, improve the reliability of the railway. I think overall, from digitalization perspective, people do argue that we have been seeing digitalization for ages. But the latest wave of digitalization is to be able to have a much more effective asset management organization, so that we can support the operations management regime that is being planned. Yeah, so that's my bit of this. I think I'll be handing over back to Melody to talk more about the program.
Thank you, Krishna. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes. Thank you, Krishnan. And yeah, let me share the PowerPoint again. Share screen. Full screen. Yes. Oops. Okay. So to probably conclude this session, we have a bit of a Q&A, but the main presentations. If you're also, like us, interested in railways, we have an MSc in Railway System Engineering and Integration, which I'm going to talk about. As mentioned earlier, I'm the program of it for Dubai campus. I'll talk a bit about the background of this course, the module that are being taught, whether to study part-time or full-time, the timetable, and why to study at University of Birmingham, Dubai. Fortunately, there are lots of investments going on in railways in this region. As I mentioned, for instance, Europe has already built their railways. There are projects going on over there as well. But in this region, in the Middle East, there is shift towards more sustainable modes of transportation. As oil exporting countries, they want to shift to sustainable modes of transportation. So as you can see, there are many railway projects going on, Blue Metro Line in Dubai, Etihad Rail and its connection to Oman. We have Neom City, which has a railway project over there. In Morocco, tram network is being built, high-speed rail in Egypt. So this is especially good for people looking for job, which is very important for everybody. So these investments somehow translates to lots of job and lots of needs for experts in the field of railway. This course originally started in the University of Sheffield in 1994. The reason for offering this course was, as previously discussed, railways is multidisciplinary, and railways needed system engineers and people that know all different subsystems and can be successful in railways. I'll explain a bit more a bit later. Then in 2006, it moved to Birmingham and our Edgbaston campus, and has been offered over there since then. We offered this course in 2023, so we had our first cohort of students in October 2023, and overall, since this course has been offered, there are over 1,000 alumni from 40 different countries, and they're working in various railways and projects around the world, and they're managers as well as well-established engineers. Here you can see the modules that we have. We have 6 modules, in total 120 credits. As again, you can see it covers all aspects of railway. We have a module on infrastructure and rolling stock, which is more, let's say, mechanical engineering. We have on electrification and traction systems, infrastructure. Sorry, I mentioned infrastructure, railway control and digital system, which is more a bit like electrical engineering. And we have also modules on soft aspects of railway operation management, as we discussed a bit of it today, and also business and people management. So a graduate will have a very good understanding of all different aspects of railway and how these different subsystems interact with each other to make a more efficient railway. At the end, there is a 60 credit research project. So when all of this is done, you can get your MSc. For people that might not be interested in research, bit of it, you can get a PG diploma without doing the research project, but just doing the 6 modules that I mentioned. The emphasis, as I mentioned, is on system engineering. And as you saw, there's a specific module on system engineering, which discusses how a system works and how to make a system work more efficiently. And emphasis is also on the multidisciplinary aspects of railway and the system engineering aspects. You can do this course full-time or part-time. Most of our, actually currently all our students in Dubai are working in different railway companies. So they are interested in doing it part-time, because part-time you have 2 years to finish your studies. You have 3 modules per year. So it's more manageable if you work, and moreover, you have more time to pay your fee. We also have lab week, and which more practical things are done in the lab week, and we have a study tour at the end of the studies. We often are approached by railway companies, and they want to hire our graduates, but currently we don't have any graduates that doesn't have a job. So there is great, I cannot emphasize this enough, that there's great potential for people that intend to work in the railway industry. We are working on a scheme to somehow have some sort of a corporate scholarship for people that want to work and study, but it needs a bit of time. But we currently have a scholarship available. I will explain in a bit. The timetable of our courses are offered what we call block teaching, which is we teach each module in one intensive week. This is great for people that travel from abroad. Some of our students come from Saudi Arabia. We just had an applicant from Egypt. So this is suitable for even if people don't live in the UAE or but they live in the region, they can just come for 1 week, have the module, and then head back to their homes, and then they can submit the coursework, and obviously they should come back for the exam. So in the weekdays, we have our classes run from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. and in the weekend, we have from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Why to study at University of Birmingham in Dubai? Paul previously mentioned about the Ukraine and the role of Birmingham in this UK Rail Research and Innovation Network. We are the largest academic-based railway group in Europe. The syllabus of the modules are the same as the UK, with some tweaks to adapt it for the region. So we would have more case studies based on this region. The degree that the graduate will get is identical to the UK, even it doesn't mention Dubai on it. And we have lots of collaboration with the railway industry. We have an MOU with Keolis, which is Dubai Metro Operators. We have a contract with Saudi Arabia with RTA. This week, the RTA, the Road and Transport Authority in Dubai. We have a task force to do projects and do collaboration. And even in the class, lots of, for instance, currently we have students from Siemens. I mean, I say student, but they're actually managers and engineers. But we have from Siemens, Alstom, Senior. So even in the class, you have lots of opportunities to network with other people that are managers, and this will increase. If you already have a job, you can learn more, get promoted, you incur a job. If you're looking for, you don't have a job, or you're looking for changing your job, there are great opportunities for this as well. Here you can see the fees. The fee for PG diploma is a bit lower because it doesn't have that research part. There's some scholarship available. Usually good students can get up to 30% scholarship. There are some country-specific scholarship as well. I think India is eligible for that. And if from a company, a group join, I think university also offers some corporate discount as well. So we accept students from, because due to that multidisciplinary approach of the program, we accept students from different backgrounds. Engineering, especially mechanics, civil, electrical engineers are very welcome. Also physics, economics are acceptable. And we prefer people that have some working experience in the industry, but if they don't have, we have primer modules which can compensate for some of this. If you're interested, I've put some links. I will also put right now in the chat. We have our next open day on 7th of September. So if you live in the UAE or you can fly to Dubai, it's on a Saturday, next Saturday actually. So we would be there, and you would be able to see different parts of the university and ask about scholarship or any other questions that you have. I put the link of the course page. You can easily find it by searching it. And if you have any question, you're very welcome to, not just about MSc, if you have other railway questions, or I would be very happy to be in touch and to reply. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Melody. Thank you so much for the wonderful session. I would like to thank all the experts today who have done their presentations. And now it's time for questions. So I think, Melody, you can have a look at the chat, and I'll try to pick up some relevant questions. So
I think Sumit, if I may, I think many of the questions that have come up about the course, Melody answered in the course of what she said. But I think, as well as that, what she said at the end there, I think is important. If anyone has any queries, then please feel free to just email her on the address that she put up a moment ago. I think that addresses many of the things. Thank you, Sumit. Sorry.
Thank you, Plummer. So I think most of the questions, as Paul said, have been answered by Melody in her presentation. So if there is any new questions, okay, let me just.
There was one for, I think Krishnan could answer about ARTMS.
Yeah, I think there was one on the use of AI. So before I go on, I think it was from Chakshim Landru. I think it says that he's a finishing student in systems and security with experience in ERTMS, and he's asking the question that on the can the integration of cloud computing and AI in management and optimization of ERTMS impact on safety. I think cloud computing is already a thing. with ERTMS in that most of the deployments are being done using AWS structures. So it's not a thing of the future. So we are doing deployments in or as in the industry. I don't do these deployments, but from whatever I've heard, industry majors do make deployments of ERTMS using cloud-based technologies. So that's already a thing that's happening. Regarding the question on AI, the issue is that we have railways is 200 years old, so we have evolved a system of physical testing and verification, and we have continuously being able to run tests that we can actually see results to, and that means that the awareness that we have as an industry on these techniques is not as much. So with AI coming in, the first thing we need to work out is how will it be used. If it's going to be used for ERTMS, then what type of traffic management and optimization? Will it be a decision support tool, or will it be actually a tool that will actively set routes based on demand? And then based on that, we need to ask questions around AI safety. My personal view of this is that AI safety is a well understood technology in autonomous vehicles, and there is a lot of parallels between the two in how we can actually quickly create a testing verification regime to improve the integration. Um, Ultimately, the answer is we won't know until we test if it is safe. I think that's the only safe answer we have with AI in traffic management, at least with SIL 3 and above systems. Yep. So I think that was me. Full is if there's another question, and I'm happy.
Krishna, we've covered almost all the questions, so I can see a lot of repetitions in the question. So, okay, there is one question I would like. Mohsen is asking: is there any online option for this education? And second question is: does it have cybersecurity on railways in your course? Is there a module or are there topics on rail cybersecurity?
I think Paul is better to answer.
So there isn't a purely online version, but a lot of the work is done online. As Melody described, it's the modules are done in intense week blocks, so those are in person, but subsequent assignments and so on can be done remotely. In terms of cybersecurity, there's not a whole module on that, but it certainly is something that is covered. And we have a lot of further capability if people want to get more in more detail into that. So, for example, around if it was something you wanted to do in your dissertation, then that's something that could easily be supervised.
Okay. I think
and also we are seeking with the Railway Academy and Summit to probably offer some, apart from this MSc that we already have, maybe some short courses or CPDs if they are interested. So that's why we mentioned please register your interest so we know how many people are interested, and if there are enough, maybe we can have some custom made. It would take a bit of time probably to make them, but the MSCs are already there. But if there are enough interest, maybe we can offer online courses or on the topics that we currently don't have. We can, such as the cyber security, which was mentioned, we can offer them as well.
One question I'd like to ask on behalf of the participants to Paul and Melody and Krishnan. So as it's what the question which Sandeep Saxena has asked. So how is this program relevant for people who have upwards of 10 plus years of experience? So Sandeep is one case who has put up a question that he's got about 20 years. He's been working in project management in Saudi. Is this program meant for him? Is what where I would like you to put enlighten.
Absolutely. So we have a real on the courses in Birmingham and in Dubai, we have a mix of people who are but might be recent graduates or people on degree apprenticeship course, people with substantial experience working in the railway that want to perhaps take a step back in their career and broaden their horizons and move in a different direction within the railway. So we absolutely have that mix, and I think it's part of the reason why I think it's so good actually is it brings people together with different experience in that way, but helps you to sort of reset your career, if you like. If you followed a narrow path, you might want to follow a more broader career in future.
Okay. One more follow-up question I have on this is that could you please elaborate upon the class profiles of the past few cohorts that have been run in UK, or I think this is the first cohort that is being planned in Dubai. The program started in 2023, but if you could elaborate upon the class profile. What kind of people do generally join the cohorts, and what is the kind of age bandwidth that the work heterogeneity is there? So what all?
Yeah, thank you for that, Sumit. I think so I also wear the hat of an admissions person on this course. So generally, any admissions applications can end up coming to me. So last year, the Dubai cohort, all are mature students, and by mature, I meant that they have at least 5 years of experience, work experience in the field. So they all are either project managers or asset managers or managers of a large change management and all of that in their various organizations. So they are all safely north of 5 years in this one. That's the composition in the in Dubai last year. The composition of the course generally in the UK has always been this way, that it's a practitioner's course actually, in that it's for people who are trying to unlock, who have at least 3 to 4 years experience. Very rarely do we have students with no railway experience, but even in those cases, when we do admit them on the course, they are all people who have had extraordinary academic careers. So if we can, it's a sort of an add-on to give them the boost in an academic sort of way. So and that's one of the reasons why we have really tough conditions for entry both in the UK as well as in Dubai, is to ensure that we maintain the quality and the sanity of the class size, so that if some of the people here who have 20 years of experience sit in the class, they're not sitting with people who don't understand the topics. They're able to receive the topics that at the seriousness that Melody or Paul or me can sort of like teach it in at a very senior level. We don't have people who have spent a lot of time in the C-suite spaces. That's the upper limit. So we don't see people who are currently CTOs or CEOs come on this course. There are other courses for them, but this course is generally for people in the middle years of their experience, 5 to about 25 years, that sort of range.
Okay, Krishnan, one more question I have on behalf of the students is that as Melody and emphasized upon the scholarships. So could you please throw some light on that as well? But what is the eligibility? What is your scholarship policy so that student can get some idea about it? Is it case to case basis? But how could they apply for these scholarships if somebody is interested in the course program?
I think Melody is the best person to talk about scholarships, but the eligibility is generally quite simple for the course. Like the UK, we have an IELTS requirement of entry for the course. We expect 6.5 overall, with nothing less than 6 in any of the for this one. So this is our basic, because a lot of the course is written assessment. So we'll have people writing reports, long reports, which is what is expected from people who are trying to become middle managers, is that you're writing long assessment reports. So the course has that as a component. You'll need to read a lot of academic information. So we emphasize that the IELTS or even TOEFL or whatever language test you're taking is at that level. Apart from that, a decent background, academic background previously, not spectacular, but a good one that can support what we are teaching on this course. We assume that people come without any background knowledge on say, using softwares to do simulation or anything of the sort. We don't require any sort of advanced sort of systems from that point. So it's basically this, and then time. People generally who have time to do this. Yeah, Melody can cover the scholarship question.
Yeah, just what Krishnan said was correct, and I just add 2 or 3 sentences. One is that the scholarship, fortunately, in Dubai is more than the UK because the campus is new and for various reasons. There's if you check the link that we put, there's a specific section which explains about the scholarship and the eligibility criteria. And when you apply, I mean, and it's by the way free to apply if you don't know. I mean, UK universities fortunately are free to apply. So if you're even if you're not sure or I'm like 50-50 whether to study or not, you can try and then have your application assessed and see how much scholarship you're eligible for, and then you have time to decide later. But on the website, there's a lot of information. If you need more, I already put my email, and I would be happy to explore other options if as far as possible.
Okay. Thank you, Melody, and thank you everyone who have taken out their time to join the session. And with this, we would like to conclude the session today. Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Krishnan. Thank you, Melody, once again. And if you have any questions, queries, you could write directly to Melody. Her team, Pratika, has already shared the scholarship info as well as the application form. I would request all of you to fill out those application forms and inquire in detail or set up some meetings with their team to explore the course in detail. And with this, we'll conclude the session today, and looking forward to see you in the next session. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you. Have a great evening ahead. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. We also enjoyed the session and the contribution and questions. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'll just take 1 minute. Yes. So, okay. Thank you so much, everyone.
Bye.